Hey monsters! Thanks for tuning in to Murder Murder News, the true crime cult for the latest breaking news, murdery memes, TV reviews, podcast recommendations, and all things spooky. If you've ever been told that you're too spooky, or that you've taken your fascination with true crime too far, this might be the cult for you. Come join us as we pet baby goats and spend our afternoons making flower crowns while talking about JonBenet Ramsey. I'm television's Aurora Katie.
And I'm your online murder friend, Angelina. Cults are no fun alone, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and tell all of your true crime friends. This is the Week in True Crime.
Murder, murder.
Over the last few weeks, something had been bothering Mitchell Lapa. Something irked him so much that even the harrowing 23-hour drive between his house in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and his hometown of Oshawa, Ontario, didn't quiet his mind. At this point, several sources paint a picture of a situation very familiar to many of us, but with a macabre twist. In 2019, Matthew Lapa passed away, leaving everything to his daughter and other son, completely cutting Mitchell Lapa out of his will for reasons we're not sure of. Sources say Mitchell was particularly upset about the family cottage, which had been signed over to his sister Loretta. This excerpt from estateplanning.com explains the family feuds that often go along with arranging an inheritance. There are 5 basic reasons why families fight in matters of inheritance. First, humans are genetically predisposed to competition and conflict. Second, our psychological sense of self is intertwined with the approval that an inheritance represents, especially when the decedent is a parent. Third, we're genetically hardwired to be on the lookout for exclusion, sometimes finding it when it doesn't exist. Fourth, families fight because the death of a loved one activates the death anxieties of those left behind. And finally, in some cases, one or more members of a family has a partial or full-blown personality disorder that causes them to distort and escalate natural family rivalries into personal and legal battles. These sources of family conflict are not mutually exclusive. In most cases, some combination of the 5 elements present themselves in a combustible cocktail of family rivalry and conflict. Though folks who knew Mitchell Lapa said they never knew him to suffer any psychological problems, this familial battle is the closest thing authorities have to a motive for the events that took place on September 4th. After a long trek, Mitchell pulled off the highway in Oshawa and parked his pickup truck in front of his sister Loretta's home on Park Lawn Lane around 1 o'clock in the morning. Loretta and her family had recently returned from a trip to the cottage. Uninvited, Mitchell marched inside and committed one grisly mass murder, killing Loretta's husband Chris Traynor and 3 of their children, 20-year-old Bradley, 15-year-old Adelaide, and 11-year-old Joseph. And then he turned the gun on himself, essentially fleeing the scene. He left an injured Loretta to deal with the aftermath of this carnage alone. Another son, Sam, was away at university. The community has nothing but kind words for the entire family. 20-year-old Bradley was studying economics at the University of Guelph. Both parents were beloved teachers who worked for the Catholic School Board. A virtual vigil was held Wednesday night at the Durham Catholic School Board, where students perform music and hymns. Physical memorials have been set up at both the Traynor home and the school where Chris worked, and community members continue to drop off flowers and letters for the family. Chris's brother, Chuck Traynor, says the memorial efforts have brought comfort and solace, and he noted that his brother and sister-in-law both loved teaching, loved their students and their co-workers. A GoFundMe campaign arranged for the family has already raised over $150,000. The Durham Catholic School Board has set up a team of mental health professionals to help students and staff deal with this tragedy. Mitchell Lapa wreaked havoc on this lovely little community his sister and her family had nurtured in his own hometown. Because Mitchell chose to end his own life as well, we may never be able to confirm his motive, and the family and community may never find feelings of closure. Our hearts go out to everyone mourning their losses in Durham region, and in particular to survivors Loretta and Sam Traynor.
We have an unfortunate update to the search for 3-year-old Braylen Noble, who's been missing from his home in Toledo, Ohio since September 4th. Last Friday, Braylen's mother, Dejanay Cox, reported him missing after he fell out of his window in his third-story Hunters Ridge apartment in South Toledo around 12:30 in the afternoon. Braylen's grandmother, Bobbie, called 911 to report him missing.
911, where's your emergency?
Yes, we have a missing 3-year-old.
Okay, what's the address?
Autistic nonverbal.
Your name?
My name is Bobbie.
Bobbie, is
B-I-E Johnson.
Bobbie, is she white or Hispanic?
Black.
And you said we have nonverbal?
Yes.
How long has she been missing?
It's a he.
Him?
We've been looking for him for over a good 30 minutes.
Okay.
He fell out his window in these apartments.
You think he's hurt?
I'm hoping he's okay, but we don't know where he's at. We walked the whole grounds.
Okay.
In the 911 recording, Bobbie can be heard crying and tells the operator that Braylen is autistic and nonverbal. She said they had been looking for him for 30 minutes and were unsure if he was injured since they were unable to find him. Bobbie said they searched the entire apartment complex, a nearby creek, and the park on the property. The Toledo police and volunteers searched for little Braylen every day since he was reported missing, and unfortunately, his body was found in a nearby swimming pool on Wednesday. According to police, the pool had previously been searched by live and cadaver dogs, law enforcement, and rescue teams. They also said it's common practice in police investigations once an area is searched, if nothing is found, to go back and revisit that area to see if something was missed. Police did escort Dejanay and another woman into a police car, but the 2 women were not handcuffed. Rumors began to circulate amongst the crowd of volunteers as many suspect Braylen's mother's involvement. An autopsy is being performed on Braylen actually today, which is Thursday, but we'll have more of an update for you about this case coming up tomorrow on MurderMurder.news. So by the time you see this, that will already be posted, so be sure to check that for any information that's been released.
This week, we're watching Perry Mason on HBO. The gritty series, set in 1930s Los Angeles, centers around the kidnapping and subsequent murder of a baby boy named Charlie Dodson. Perry Mason is based on the short stories and novels written by Earl Stanley Gardner about a criminal defense attorney, Perry Mason. The show is super addictive, but we also recommend that you check out our feature on MurderMurder.news, written by Elena Holdman, about the gruesome, real-life case the show centers on. We've linked to the article in the details below.
We're so excited to have Siobhan Makia with us from this week's favorite podcast, Zero Dark Murder. Siobhan tells stories of true crime, both foreign and domestic, that are linked to the armed forces. Siobhan, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Aurora?
So great. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Well, Siobhan, I love your show so much, and I'm totally now a dark one.
Oh,
and I love it's so great. And I love that you focus mainly on armed forces and crimes related to people in the military, or perhaps like the victim being in the military too. So right now, this is such a good time for these stories. There's so much going on with Fort Hood and all the mysterious deaths and disappearances there. And what inspired you to start your podcast, and how did you get so lucky with this timing?
Well, there are 3 reasons. One, we are with COVID, and there are so many people that are just staying at home. They're at home either from work, or they're being homeschooled, virtual or hybrid, where they're half in school, half at home. And the podcasting world has truly exploded. It's gone mainstream. Now is the time to jump in and, ride that fun wave. It's not very often that you have a form of entertainment that becomes mainstream. It just doesn't happen that often, and as an actress, podcasting is a good way for me to train my voice and write, because I love that. And also because I spent 6 years in the Air Force, I thought, what do I have to bring to the table as a podcaster. And I thought I would love to do something that speaks to the veteran community, that helps get the voice out with what's happening in the veteran community. But then I also thought, well, I can't just do a veteran podcast.
Right.
It has to be something else. What do I love? What do I love? And then true crime just popped into my head. And I thought, there are a lot of military true crimes out there. They don't always reach the masses.
Right.
And this will be a great way for me to get the word out, to bring light to the victims, to bring light to cases that people didn't even realize were linked to the military. And it's a great way for me to put a different spin on the true crime genre. So then it came together, Zero Dark Murder.
That's so great. And one of the things I love about your show is, being a civilian, there's a lot of things that I don't understand about how the military works. And I love that you have insider information. So your show not only does relate to veterans and people that have served in the military, but also for people like me that are true crime fanatics that have been following Vanessa Guillen's story, just like, it's all I do in my free time, like her story and Elder Fernandez just last week. There's so many similar stories. So I love that you're giving us insider info.
Definitely. And I've been following Vanessa Guillen. I have her set up on Google Alerts. And sadly, my phone dings several times a day.
Right. And I hate to put you in a position where you have to decide like right in a second, but do you have any theories as to what could be going on at Fort Hood? Is it all related? Is it just such a big military base that these are sort of random crimes that are happening? Like, what's your theory right now?
Honestly, I do think that these are random crimes that are happening, but this is happening on a higher tier level. This is from the base commander on down. They're not launching proper investigations, and they're not really cracking down as far as their rules and their regulations. Basically, what I'm saying here is they need to clean house, Aurora. They need to start from the top tier all the way down to the privates. Right. And they really need to restructure that base, because this has been happening for far too long. Vanessa Guillen is not the first soldier to fall in the line of duty due to foul play. And unfortunately, she won't be the last.
Yeah, and I think a lot about that. We've, like, recently, these stories have been in the news. Like, Vanessa's story's been in the news. And it's like, how many soldiers were strange things happening to before we all kind of caught wind of it? Because we were all sort of bored during the pandemic. Like, I don't know. Probably a lot. Yeah.
This is sad. But I'm glad that light was shed on her story and her tragic death, because now all of the other deaths that are happening on Fort Hood are being exposed. This is shedding light on all of their cases too.
Yeah, that is such a good point.
It's a necessary evil, but it was time.
Yeah, I agree. And I love
everything happens for a reason, and it's time.
Yeah, I love your idea of cleaning house too. Like, I can't wait for you to get more into some of these episodes, because I know you're gonna do a fantastic job.
She's coming. I am doing an episode on Vanessa Guillen. I am also doing an episode on George Floyd. He has a military tie-in that a lot of people don't know about.
I did not know that. Great. Well, Siobhan, you know so much clearly about true crime. What is your true crime origin? Was there a murder in your hometown, a story that's always haunted you? What got you into this originally?
Honestly, being the middle child. When you're a middle child, you have to have your own imagination. You have to delve off into your own world, because, your mom she's got her firstborn, then she's got her younger. And the middle child kind of left to fend for themselves. So I always turned to the TV. What was on TV? Nightmare on Elm Street was on TV. Friday the 13th was on TV. I would beg my mother to let me stay up and watch the scary movies. And then, of course, after that, I progressed to forensic files. I progressed to cold case stories. And it was different from movies, because these were real. And these were really happening to people. And as time went on, of course, we all graduated to Netflix. And then I really got involved in a lot of the true crime documentaries that were being done. And I just really liked it. And then, of course, when I finished watching all of the stories, the true crime docs on Netflix, Then I got into podcasting. One day a friend of mine said, you know, you should really listen to this. And I'm like, what's a podcast? I was so new. I was such a tadpole. I'm like, what is a podcast? And she said, oh, I love this. And then I pulled it up. I played an episode and that was it. I was hooked. And then about a year later, I decided, okay, we're in the middle of COVID. Everyone is listening to podcasts now. I'm going to take the plunge. I'm going to do it.
That's great. And your first season of your podcast has started off with a bang. You've covered the case of the cannibal killer, Catherine Knight, and the presumed killer, most likely the killer, Michael Peterson. So what are some cases you're looking forward to covering in the future?
Well, I am going to be covering the Grim Sleeper. A lot of people don't know that he's tied to the military. He was a prolific serial killer in Los Angeles. He killed with impunity for over 20 years. They call him the Grim Sleeper because he actually went silent for over a decade because he thought that he had made one too many mistakes. So that's going to be a story that you guys are going to love. I'm also going to be covering the case of the lynching of Private Felix Hall, which is a very, very sad story. He was actually lynched on a military base, and it is still a cold case to this day. No one found out who lynched him. And, you know, a lot of his family members have died. They've passed on. But I still think his story deserves attention. So I'm going to be delving into a lot of cases like that.
That's great. Well, Siobhan, it's been so fantastic having you here today. Can you let our viewers know where they can find you on social media so they can also become a dark one too?
Awesome. Dark ones, you can find me on Twitter at ZeroDarkMurder. You can find me on Instagram at ZeroDarkMurder, and you can find me on Facebook at Zero Dark Podcast. You can also find my discussion group on Facebook as well.
Awesome. And don't forget to subscribe to Zero Dark Murder so you don't miss a single episode.
We are having a big giveaway, and you could win a big basket of murder merch just for registering at the MurderMurder.news commune. The prize basket includes our Murder Murder News tote bag and t-shirt, a Stay Spooky shirt in any size you like from Stay Lucky Boutique, a killer necklace from Forensic Miles, this Son of a Witch zip pouch from DeKaylee Shop, a Good Wine and True Crime sticker from Lacey Olson, and this Talk Murder to Me mug from Mug Matters Studio. All of this awesome murder merch is worth over $150 with no purchase necessary. All you have to do is go to MurderMurder.news to register your account and let us shower you with true crime presents. We will have 2 winners, one in the US and one in Canada, and we'll announce the winners live on our channel in October. We love reading your comments, so long as you aren't a troll, and we want to thank Debbie Dooms for commenting that she's Brazilian and found Fleur de Lis's story to be so interesting.
Thank you, as always, to Food Makeup Skin for commenting that she's so shocked by Fleur de Lis's story and can't believe Brazilian Congress people can't be charged.
Thanks so much for tuning into This Week in True Crime with Murder Murder News. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button below, give us a thumbs up, and tell all of your true crime friends.
If you just can't get enough true crime, join our commune at MurderMurder.news for our Monster Book Club and Cold Case Solving groups. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. See you next week.
Murder, murder, news.